Hey anyone, welcome back. If you previously seen my last video or episode or show, I don't really know what this is right now. I think it's just videos. There's talk of maybe doing a podcast, making it into a podcast. Got some suggestions about doing that. So some of you maybe now or eventually or whatever, hearing this without all of the sparkling videography and editing and graphics and such that comes with the videos here at YouTube. But regardless, welcome back to Audio Waves, Rants and Raves with Crazy Dave. Like I said, I'm still working on a logo. I'm one man, people. Okay, making graphic stuff is hard, and I mean I do it, but I'm one man. Okay, I got a lot of stuff going on. Okay, I'm a very busy man. I have a lot of responsibility. Regardless, thank you for tuning in, for bringing up the episode. Hopefully, it will be stimulating and such. Because today's topic is going to be how long does it take to record part 2? Now, when I did my previous video, whatever. When I did my previous video, part 1, I was talking mostly about the 1 hour mentality, or trying to buy whatever time you could. It was dealing mostly with people who just wanted to put something out with little concept of what goes into a recording session and such. So I wanted to do something, I wanted to do a part 2, I guess, because I wanted to dedicate something to how a session goes when you're not limiting the creativity, when maybe you have a little bit more of a plan and a little bit more in mind of what you're going for and what you're looking to do and such. So the thing is that there's I always heard a couple of sayings in about recording. The old saying, whatever time you think that you need in the recording studio, double it. You double the amount of time, or maybe even possibly triple it or more and such. But my video class, when I was taking my video editing classes and such, there was a statement made by the instructor that for every minute of video shot, there was an hour of post-production that went in. And you could kind of say maybe that would be true with recording. I mean, if you consider that you have like a three-minute song, for example, and you have drums, bass, guitar, and vocals, a 4-piece band, the drums, and maybe even really every track, but for the drums, you're going to be adjusting the mic placement. You're going to be adjusting the levels, cleaning up the tracks, editing, quantizing, adding effects, compression, EQ, reverb, delay, a lot of the things that that I even talked about in the previous video and such. And for vocals and guitar, you might have auto tuning. You'll be doing punch-ins and overdubs, multi-tracking. A 4-piece band could actually end up becoming a 12-piece band. If you consider that the guitar is going to be doing rhythm guitar overdubs with maybe multiple rhythm guitars, or acoustic guitars as well, and harmonizing solos and things, and lead vocals are could be doubled, and 3-part harmonies could be added, and those 3-part harmonies could be doubled. So all of those factors obviously are going to make a difference. And then there inevitably becomes the, hey, can we put an additional percussion line on this, or drum loop, or can we add a keyboard, or breaking glass, and children's choirs, and additional things that you get inspired by once you're in the studio, coming up with your song and creating and such. And for heaven's sakes, don't forget about the mix down. The mix down is something that the band may or may not be involved in, but uh, it's still part of the session. It still happens, and it still needs to happen, and it can be long and arduous and grueling and such. So, um, don't neglect the mix down in your when you're considering your session as well. I mean, I remember I've heard stories, and I really need to do a better job of citing the references. I read and hear these stories, and I never really think I'm going to be passing them on. But I'm going to just try to do a better job of that so I can reference, because I just recently read a story about Chuck Berry's band. They went in and recorded one of their songs, and it took like 25 or 35 takes or something like that, to do the song, because back in the olden days they didn't have the editing capabilities that we do. So the band would record, and a minute and a half in, the bass player would kind of mess up, and so they have to do it again, and then the piano player would trip up, um, and Chuck Berry wouldn't be happy with his guitar line or his vocal line or something. And so before they finally got a track that everybody in the band could agree that their performance was good on, it took them 25, 35 times, and I mean, I remember hearing a story about like Slipknot went through like a dozen different snare sounds, different snares, before they found the right one for their recording. So all these crazy things, kind of end up happening. And I wanted to use my song, my remake of Triumph's "Fight the Good Fight" that I released here a while back, and kind of talk about that, because there was a lot that went into that song. I mean, I couldn't tell you how long I recorded and mixed and edited my parts, and the song and such. And then there's also um, reviewing the mastering that my friend Kurt Harmon did. He does work here for Wall of Sound and such. He was mastering it, and I was reviewing the masters and such. And I don't know how long. He doesn't really talk about how much time it takes him to do the stuff that I have him do. But I reviewed. I had to review that, and his time is kind of a factor in there as well. But Fight contains, aside from the bass and the drums, there's the guitar. And so aside from recording the guitar or the bass and the drums, there were various guitars used. For the electric guitars, there was a 7-string guitar. There was a drop D tuned guitar. There was a clean guitar, clean electric in there. I recorded with a Nashville tuned acoustic. My original intent was not to add any acoustic guitars to Fight the Good Fight, but my guitar student John Johansson had tuned one of his guitars to a Nashville tuning, and I was like, wow, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to use a guitar like this. So I added some of the tracks on that for the stereo 12-string effect, and then there were the harmony solos that I put on there. For vocals, for the background vocals, I brought in my friend Bob Cahoon to sing some backgrounds, and John Johansson, of course, did some backup vocals as well. And then there was my BGVs and also my wife Barb, aside from her lead vocal line. Now, I can tell you that her tracks were 8 hours. So her vocal tracks were done in 8 hours. And essentially what we did was, she came in and camped out in the studio with blankets, and we got her a chair, and she brought her sweaters and her ceremonial warm water and our dog, and sat in the studio in the old Wall of Sound, the previous Wall of Sound Productions location. And so we came in like a Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening or something like that, and we recorded her lines for about 3 hours, working on the lead lines and doing experimentations and such. I don't know how many backups we did at that point, how many of her BGVs we were doing at that point. but we were probably working on them a little bit and such. But then Sunday afternoon we came in early in the afternoon and to just kind of finish the backups, and that was probably around another 3 hours. But then we decided that we would redo and finish them. We needed a little bit more time, so we came back Sunday night, and we recorded for probably another 2 hours or so, just to get everything finished. And it wasn't that she didn't know her part, or that the session was going bad or anything like that. I mean, in fact, it was really one of the best times we've had in years. Barb is limitless in the studio, and we would collaborate on how to make the best lines and what was sounding good, and what we were going for. And producers, sometimes I would push her to make things bigger and better. Maybe too many times.
No.
So, when she gets tired and frustrated and she thinks she's done it enough, um, that kind of thing happens. But, um, like I say, it was a great session with somebody who really knows what they're doing, with their talent and their abilities, and like I say, we had a really good time doing it, and 8 hours was fine, for us. I mean, my approach to recording is to book time in the studio and keep booking it until it feels right, and I don't care about how many hours or the amount of money it takes. I just want it to sound amazing, and I mean, this approach is both a blessing and a curse, which really is kind of another episode I think. But uh, it really kind of takes a producer to wrangle the time constraints in, which is another episode that hopefully we'll be able to do. But like I say, um, then there is the mix down, and with the mix down, it can be crazy. It can be boring and repetitive. It can be frustrating when you're trying to find the right sound. When you're trying to make the whole band happy. If you have more than one guitar player, God help you, because I know being a guitar player, I know how hard it is to work with more than one guitar player. One guy wants their guitar up, loud enough, and their part up loud enough at a certain time, and all of these things. And so, if the band's involved in the sessions, it can be, uh, you know, it can be good, and it can be bad. But if the band's not involved, then you're paying the engineer to get you a mix that you're hopefully going to be happy with. And if you're pushing back, that's more time. That's more that goes into more of the expense and such. I do know that. I mean, I've recorded in dozens of different studios over the years in different cities and different places with different people and things. But I know that, like my Jury of My Peers album, uh, well, and essentially, I think my mixes generally are around 8 hours per song. Okay, so that's kind of what I find myself in. I figure it's probably around 8 hours a song. But recording and the time within it and the mix down and everything, it's all project specific. But be sure to talk about that at the beginning of your recording, or when you're talking about the sessions and negotiating and planning and such, to make sure that all of those things are in there. I mean, it's we're in the music business, and so need to you know you need to manage your projects, and so you just want to make sure that you have all of these things, as many things as possible, and be as ready as possible to come in and to compensate for as many unknowables as possible. Like I said, my wife has a toolbox full of years of things that, I mean, I carry a drum key around. I carried a drum key around with me before I had a studio because inevitably drummers were always losing their drum keys. I mean, it's just, kind of the thing. It's just another thing that you just kind of learn you just kind of learn to try to compensate for, but I say in summary, just try to have a good plan. Maybe start by considering 1 hour per instrument, per track, per song, more or less. But be ready, be as ready as you can. Be open for changes and experimentation. Maybe I had a situation where the guitar amp, I wanted to use my guitar amp and for a song, and the my wife and the engineer decided that a crappy old Fender amp that Stone Temple Pilots used on their album was the amp that I should be using for a song. And I recorded my parts with it, and it did sound really good. And I went back in and put some of my guitar under my amp underneath it and such. But be ready for those type of things. Be open to experiment. Be open for the unknowables of frustrations and bad days and just things getting in the way sometimes, and try to compensate for as many of those things as you can. And try to plan for as many unknowables as possible. Contact me here at Wall Sound, and let's get a tour. Let's talk about your project. Let's see kind of what your intent is and where you're going and what you're looking to do. And maybe we can, I'm sure we can get something we can get sessions planned that are gonna be something that you're gonna enjoy. But that's all I've got. I appreciate you. As always, I appreciate everybody sticking in. If you've been in this far in the video, like I say, I just plan to do this 2 times a month or so. So be sure to subscribe and like, and just check out some of the previous videos, and send me topics, input on this and other topics and such that we can do. Always looking for that positive feedback out here on the internet. So thank you again, and I guess I still don't have to have on. So thanks.